So in this episode, what we're going to discover is identifying your unique rhythm, recognizing that we're not all the same, and putting some processes in place so you can have healthy boundaries as you recognize your unique rhythm. Welcome to Accepting, where I guide you to accept all aspects of your beautiful self, embrace your truth, and live your life that way. Hello, gorgeous, and a warm welcome to Accepting. I'm Aline, your host. I'm a channel, I'm a mentor, and I'm a coach. And I love to see sensitives in all walks of life flourish. In this episode, we're going to be continuing the theme from the gorgeous conversation with Christos and Foster about the year of the wood snake. And in this episode, we're going to be discovering how to recognize and accept our own rhythms, our own unique rhythms, because we're not all the same. So grab yourself a cup of tea, let's get cozy and dive in. So in the previous episode, if you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you watch that. I had the most beautiful conversation with my mentors, Christos T. Perry and Foster Perry. And what I like to do when there's been special guests is to delve into the themes that came up. And very much the theme that has come up in terms of the wood snake is about healing, transformation, liberation. So what we're going to work on today is we're going to talk about, first of all, the healing aspect of it. So before we can do any transformation, before we can liberate ourselves, it's really important to recognize ourselves and accept our unique rhythms. So in this episode, what we're going to discover is identifying your unique rhythm, recognizing that we're not all the same, and putting some processes in place so you can have healthy boundaries as you recognize your unique rhythm. Okay? So first of all, we are in the year of the wood snake. And the year of the wood snake is very much this year, in the year of 9, about endings, finishings, getting to the point of who we truly are. And to do this, it's not a straight line, it's not linear, it's waves and it's curves. And the snake is on the ground. So it's very much about feeling grounded and not jumping into things, really feeling into things, taking measured decisions. So when we do this, as empaths, as sensitive people, when there's quite a lot going on in the world and we're not centered and grounded, we can really easily just jump into something without thinking. So this is why I really feel in this episode is to discuss and to feel into how can we ground and center ourselves in the year of the wood snake when there's a lot going on in the world, and how can we show up with our unique rhythms whilst accepting the unique rhythms of other people. Get my right teeth in. So first of all, so the snake, as we know, is about transformation. It's about taking off layers. It's removing the skin and transforming into others. The snake is used very much in medicine, in the amdusias, the two snakes coming up and coiling around each other. So the snake images are everywhere. And with healing, it's really important that we recognize our own way of healing, because what works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for somebody else. So what we're doing is we're recognizing what helps me, what is my rhythm. So first of all, I'd really invite you to journal on this. So I would take pen to paper and get yourself into a very beautiful space where there's absolutely no distractions. I highly recommend being under a tree. If you can, sit under the tree so you're grounded, like the snake grounded. Get your journal or your phone, however you prefer to do it. Make sure it's on Do Not Disturb if you're using your phone. and just start feeling into, where do I feel my most grounded? How do I feel my most centered? And I would write those questions down in your journal or speak that into the phone, and just close your eyes and don't necessarily jump into it. Just start to feel into, okay, so what works for me? Does it work for me to wake up half an hour earlier? Does it work for me to do yoga in the morning? Does it work for me to go for a run in the morning? What works for me to feel grounded before I step into my day? What really, really works for me? So that's the first question I would ask yourself. And if you find yourself saying blah, 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 or writing blah, 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 just do that. It's absolutely fine, because as I've mentioned in previous episodes, with anything that's signifying change, and very much it's change in the year of the wood snake, transformation, there's likely to be a little bit of resistance, because our brains, our limbic brains, come in and they recognize danger because change is happening, and they'll try and protect us. Remember, the inner protector. So what I would really invite you to do is, perhaps before you go into the journaling, is place your hand on your heart and say, I am safe. We are safe. Speak to your inner child. We've got this. And sit under that tree or be in that space with some beautiful meditative music on, with candles, crystals, whatever works for you. And just write down, how do I feel my most centered? How do I feel my most grounded? And see what comes up, and just have no expectations of what's going to come up. Like I said, it may be blah, 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 blah. Have no expectations, and just feel into what works for me, not what other people tell me work for me, not what, when I put on my social media and somebody's telling me to ground in this way or center in this way, what actually works for me, because we all have our own unique rhythms. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. Now, the next thing I would highly recommend is start feeling into your morning routine. So many of us now work from home, and many of us are still in the corporate environment. So it's recognizing that before going into our day, there's likely to be distractions around us. So how can we best prepare for the day that we're going into with all of the distractions around us? So I would really ask yourself, again, journaling, I would ask yourself and be really, really honest with yourself. What is my main distraction that stops me from my inner healing and my inner work in the morning? What is my main distraction? And be really honest with yourself. It might be that you're putting on the snooze button. It might be that you're picking up your phone immediately and scrolling straight away, or looking at messages. It's recognizing, where are you jumping in to your day rather than as a snake being measured and being grounded and feeling into what is the best move to make before making that move. So I would really invite you, for your next journaling question, what are the distractions around me? It could be family, it could be children, it could be your boss on the end of the phone. So this is where healthy boundaries really, really come in, my gorgeous. And if you haven't seen that episode, please go back and watch the episode on healthy boundaries. So with the healthy boundaries, what we're going to start doing is creating that space for ourselves in the morning. So be really honest with yourself. What does your morning routine look like? Do you jump out of bed and look after everybody first, and then run downstairs for 5 minutes, jump in the shower whilst brushing your teeth, whilst doing everything, having your clothes in the dryer, jumping them on, running out the door, children to school? Or do you jump out of bed, look after everybody else in the house, and your boss is calling, so you're on the phone to your boss, you're organizing appointments, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that. And where are you? Have you eaten anything? Have you sat and meditated? And meditated doesn't have to be sitting like this. Meditation can be going for a walk. Meditation can just be writing. There's so many different ways to meditate. And again, we can get into that into another episode. So what I would really invite you to do is, where are you losing your power to distractions? Is ask yourself, where are you losing your power to distractions? Where am I losing my power to distractions? Where am I jumping out of bed in the morning and forgetting myself immediately? Because this year is all about you, my gorgeous. Absolutely, as a collective, before we can show up as a collective, we have to really recognize our own individuality and work on ourselves before we can jump in and start helping everybody else. We know this. It's rule number one. How often can we let this go by the wayside? So as we're recording, it's February the 4th, I believe, today. And this is actually going to go out tonight as well. And I really felt, as I was in silence yesterday, I really felt that today was the day to record this. So we've come through January. We're on February the 4th. Venus is going into Aries, which is a very beautiful time for action taking and feeling into, what really, really works for us. And Venus is also is very much about money, and Venus is very much about wealth, and health is wealth, my gorgeous. Remember, this year is about healing, and health very much is wealth. Obviously, wealth, money, etc. is wealth as well. We can go into that in another episode. This episode, we're focusing on healing. So healing, we have to start from the beginning. So this is why I'm talking about your morning routine. Okay? So recognize, how do I get up in the morning? Am I really looking after myself? Am I ignoring myself before everybody else? And what is fundamental as you're asking yourself these questions is there's no judgments. So we're going into this with kindness, compassion, and respect for ourselves. And we're going into this with, this is my healing journey. This is my self-healing journey. And I'm really feeling into what helps me heal, what works for me. So we've got, how do I feel centered and grounded? That's the first one. And then, what is my morning routine? Where am I being distracted in the mornings? Okay, so first of all, it's identifying that. So then what we're going to do is, once we've identified, okay, so these are my distractions in the morning, let's start feeling into, well, what works for me? What would really work for me? If I had an extra half an hour in the morning, or if I had an extra hour in the morning, what would I fill that space with? So instead of jumping out of bed with everybody else, and you might just be in a shared household, you might not have small children to care for. I'm talking about any kind of shared household. And also, if you're living on your own, it can also be very easy to be distracted if we've got messages coming through when we put our phone on straight away in the morning. So just identify, where are you losing your power to your inner work? Okay, so there's so many different elements of how we live. So you'll know your unique way, my gorgeous. So you might live on your own, you might live as a family, you might live as a shared household. And it's identifying, are you distracted by your housemates in the morning? Are you distracted by somebody knocking on your door and delivering something in the morning? Are you distracted by putting the news on first thing in the morning? Are you distracted by putting your phone on first thing in the morning? There are so many distractions. So what we're going to do is then feel into, and it's hilarious, I can feel, yeah, she's coming. For those of you who are watching, you're about to see my beautiful cat Cleo jump up on my lap. She's like, Mummy, what about me in the mornings? So what we're going to do is we're going to feel into, okay, so my morning routine. And if you have a morning routine in place that really works for you, fabulous. I am delighted for you. Keep it up, gorgeous. I'm talking about those who maybe don't realize that they've lost themselves a little bit in the morning. I'm talking about those who maybe don't realize how much they're not caring for themselves in the morning. And Cleo, for those of you who are listening, My cat Cleo just looked at me. She's like, yes, mummy, walkie talk. So I would really invite you to feel into, does it feel right for me to change my morning routine? Because your morning routine may be absolutely ideal for you. It may be working really, really well. You may have time set aside in the morning before you get up. You may have time set aside if you're working from home when you're in the house on your own. Start working on yourself before you do any outer work. So I would really invite you to just feel into, does this feel right for me? Because it may already be absolutely ideal. If there are changes that are going to help you, my gorgeous, let's delve into that, okay? So first of all, I would look at, I would look at, when I get up in the morning, what are my first thoughts? So I would write that down in your journal first. When I get up in the morning, what are my first thoughts? Okay? And then I would write, when I get up in the morning, what is the first thing, action that I take for myself? Okay? And it might be an hour after you've got up, you've suddenly brushing your teeth. Write that down. And it's really important just to identify, so where am I taking that time for myself? Okay? So that's what I would look into that. I would ask those questions to yourself first. So what is the first action I'm taking for myself? Where am I working on myself with my inner work when I wake up in the morning? What are my first thoughts in the morning? Okay? So moving on from that, and again, these are all processes that you can do on your own. I'm going through very, very quickly. You can pause the video, you can go back to it. You've got this, you've got this, you've got this to keep going through. So this is just getting you into that space of what works for me, what is my unique rhythm that works for me, okay? So next, once you've asked those, you've asked and felt into those questions, because it's not, don't expect the answers are really important as well. Don't expect the answers to come in 5 minutes. You're going to be receiving insights. You're going to be receiving messages and eureka moments throughout the day, throughout the weeks as you work on this. Do not expect to get all the answers straight away. It's, very much like if we're preparing for a marathon, we don't go and do a 26-mile run straight away. We create steps to get to that point. So be kind, compassionate, and respectful with yourself, my gorgeous, and take the space for yourself. So this could be your new morning routine. This could be, I wake up half an hour earlier before everybody else in the household. I go into a space that I've created and I sit there with my pen and my paper and I write down what works for me. How do I feel most grounded and centered? And I write down, what is the first action I take for myself every morning? And I write down, what are my distractions in the morning? Okay, so these are just a few journaling questions to get you started. And I would really invite you to do this and begin this as soon as possible, because it's all about starting it. And once you start making it a habit, once you start feeling into, well, what works for me by getting up half an hour earlier and writing these questions down, you're going to start creating beautiful habits. You're going to start, it's not even going to feel like, oh, I've got to do that. It's going to be natural. It's going to be organic. Your first thought in the morning will be, I'm really grateful for this body. I'm really grateful for this beautiful home. I'm really grateful for all my organs that work for me. I'm really grateful for the breath that I take. I'm really grateful for the beautiful sun. You see what happens? So I would really invite you as you're going into this, as you're feeling into what is your rhythm, be grateful with it. Because once you've worked out what is your unique rhythm to wake up in the morning, I would really invite you that your first thoughts when you wake up is, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for my body. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my fur family. Thank you. And I would really invite you to wake up and your immediate thoughts, your first three, are 3 thoughts of gratitude. Because when we wake up in gratitude, the universe listens, it changes our vibration. We're in that state of receiving and receiving more and being grateful for those things that we've mentioned and receiving more of those. Okay? It's all about vibrations. So I would really invite you to start feeling into that in the morning. Even if you're getting up just 10 minutes earlier, keep your eyes closed and feel into, what am I grateful for this morning? And just start with that. So baby steps. Because as you've got your, how do I feel centered and grounded? What are my distractions? It's very easy to start going here, 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 and here. All we're doing first is identifying, how do I feel centered and grounded? What really works for me with my inner work? What are my distractions? And identifying those first before we start leaping into, okay, I'm going to go for an hour run. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my boundaries all around me. Let's start with baby steps and let's start with gratitude. Okay? So gratitude first. So wake up in the morning to start with. Keep those eyes closed. I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for, I am grateful for, and feel into that. Because then once you're in this space, and if you feel, and again, we're not all the same, and if you feel, okay, now I'm going to get up, or I'm going to stay in bed, and I'm going to start doing my inner work. So before you're jumping out of bed and doing everything for everybody else, this is why I say if you can get up half an hour earlier or an hour before everybody else, and start with baby steps first, like I said, 10 minutes first. If you feel you can do half an hour or an hour straight away, wonderful. I'm talking about if those little comments can start coming up with our limbic brains, like, well, this is different, this is change. It's just keeping ourselves in a very, very beautiful, gentle vibration of gratitude to start with. So then when we go into that inner work, I am safe, we can start really feeling into that gorgeous vibration of gratitude as we welcome the beautiful work that we're working on ourselves inside. Okay? Now, what I would invite you to do is, as you've listened to this, as you've watched this, is remember this, is pop into your phone afterwards a little calendar date that's in half an hour or in an hour or at the end of today or whenever you're listening to this, because obviously this isn't live, whatever time feels right for you. Noon is always a good time, or maybe on your lunch break, and just write your name in a work. And then I would repeat that just to remind yourself each day that you're going to be working on yourself. And you can even, if you're going to set your alarm half an hour earlier or an hour earlier, pop that as your alarm name on, if it's your phone. You can even put that, your name and inner work. So you're reminding yourself, or you can put inner work gratitude. And what I would really invite you to do is, if your phone is waking you up in the morning, don't have the Wi-Fi on and don't have, and have do not disturb in terms of phone calls, notifications, have that off. So when you're waking up in the morning in this very technological world, which is wonderful, absolutely wonderful, because this is how we're connecting. When you're waking up in the morning, You're not going to have bleep, 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 and all the people trying to contact you. You're waking up in your own space. You're waking up in gratitude. You're waking up in feeling into your own rhythm for that day. Because what we feel in one day, our rhythm may be different in another day. So it's feeling into what's working for me today. What is my inner work today? And I would really invite you to feel into something, and I'm not saying immediately because this is baby steps, something that would start really helping you in the morning, where you can take half an hour for yourself. An example of this, I'm on day 4 of my video series, the Embrace Yourself video series. And each day I wake up, I listen to an affirmation, I go into a self-healing journey, and I take a small action for the day. And that is what my Embrace Yourself video series is about. So if that resonates with you, dive into that, my gorgeous. You only need half an hour, and it's just taking you really gently into your day. And then not only with the beautiful divine feminine energy of meditation and feeling, we're then taking a small action into that. And then we work with that affirmation throughout the day. So your answer to everything, your mantra to everything is that affirmation that we're working on today. And if you would like to know what today is, it's I am brave. Okay, so feel into, and it could be anything. It could be that, it could be something else that works for you. And that's where I am at the moment. I love to go back through my processes. And with the Embrace Yourself video series, it's 22 days. And it's very beautiful, just very gently inner work every day for 22 days. And then you can start again, and you can start again. Or you may just wish to go through for 22 days, feel grounded, and then come back to it. It's your rhythm, and I'm doing this because I'm feeling the snake. For those of you who are listening, I'm moving my hand like a snake. So it's really feeling into what is my unique rhythm. And that's where we start. We start, how do we wake up in the morning? We start with, how do I feel centered and grounded? What works for me, not everybody else, not what everybody's telling me works for me. What actually works for me to ground and center myself before I jump into the day? Okay? So thank you so much for listening, my gorgeous. Please do get in touch with me as well. I love to hear from you. I had the most beautiful message the other day from somebody who's been going through a situation, and it was a gorgeous message to receive. And this is why I'm showing up every week and sharing with you what really comes through. Because the person that messaged me, they were going through a transition, a couple of changes in their lives, and they said how much the podcast really helped them feel centered and grounded as they were going through. And this is beautiful. This is why I'm doing this. And this is why I feel you're listening or watching, because this is why you're here as well, my gorgeous. We're here to share our experiences. We're here to lift each other up. We're here to support each other. And before we can do that, we have to really, really work on ourselves first. And that means inside. Okay? So huge love. Here's to your self-acceptance. So much love. Have a beautiful day, a beautiful evening, whenever you're listening to this. Here's to your self-acceptance with so much love, gorgeous. Ho. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Accepting. Please do stay tuned for future episodes, and also subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If there's anything at all that you'd like me to cover in future episodes, please get in touch and let me know. You can also follow me on Instagram at The Acceptance Coach and on TikTok at Solution Union 99. And if you'd like to have any coaching at all, or you would like to discuss this, do book an expansion call. For now, I'm your host, Aline, and to your self-acceptance, gorgeous, with so much love.